The story begins when the entire crew of the nuclear submarine USS California is called in to investigate an SOS beacon while patrolling the Atlantic. A sonar operator gets homesick when he's reminded of his son, who's a big fan of the Justice League and worries that he won't be able to compete with superheroes like Superman. Out of nowhere, they find incoming bogies on the radar. They tried to dodge them, but it still went straight for them. They managed to call out for help, but not before the submarine was sunk and everyone killed by an unknown assailant. At Star Labs, Colonel Steve Trevor is a government liaison to the Justice League and informs Victor Stone, aka Cyborg, of the incident. He asks the team to investigate after a naval submarine went dark and sank to the ocean floor in the middle of the Pacific, worried about their missing nuclear missiles. When Trevor offered to call the rest of the Justice League, Cyborg claimed he could handle the investigation by himself and that there was no need to call in the others unless the situation called for it. Although the rest of the world thinks there is a Justice League, Cyborg claims that there was never one, as they do their own thing. Cyborg later arrived at the ocean floor where the USS California sub sank using a boom tube portal. He quickly investigated and found a suspicious handprint on the ballast doors. He tried to check the security footage, but most files were corrupted. He notices someone or something lurking in the shadows when he is suddenly attacked. He tried shooting at it, but it was too fast for him, so he decided to retreat. He then shoots at them when it follows him through a hallway and escapes. Realizing that this may be too big to handle by himself, he calls a meeting with the rest of the Justice League. Barry Allen, aka The Flash, arrives, thinking he is late when it is only Cyborg and Billy Batson, aka Shazam, waiting for him. Shazam points out that Cyborg struggles to call in the rest of the team, so Flash suggests doing it in the old-fashioned way and getting them. In Athens, Greece, Diana, aka Wonder Woman, is basking in the beautiful view when Clark Kent, aka Superman, shows up. He later invites her to dinner disguised as ordinary people. Their dinner was cut short when Shazam and Cyborg showed up to fetch them. Flash fetches Hal Jordan, aka the Green Lantern, at the Ferris Air Base, who he finds flirting with a girl. When Green Lantern saw that Bruce Wayne, aka Batman, was missing, he flew to Gotham to fetch him. When he arrived, Batman was in a car chase with Scarecrow's men. Green Lantern used his powers to catch him, but Batman criticizes him for meddling in his business. Meanwhile, at Mercy Reef in Maine, Arthur Curry, aka Aquaman, is grieving over the loss of his father, who finds his way to a local pub to drown his sorrows. In his grief-stricken state, he winds up talking to a lobster, but when the chief takes it out to cook it, he starts a fight with the customer. Their brawl is taken outside, where he beats the crap out of them despite them outnumbering him. Little did he know that the Queen's guard, Mira, was sent to check up on him and determine if he was fit to be king. Also watching from the sidelines is Dr. Stephen Shin, who has been researching Atlantis his whole life. With everyone complete and accounted for, they continued discussing the incident. Thanks to Cyborg's internal recorder, they are able to review the attack as if they were there. Upon closer inspection of the submarine, they were able to establish that the damage to the sub was done by hand when they could not find energy signatures on it. Flash could distinguish 4 handprints moving in sync, which Batman suspects 4 squadrons must have attacked the sub underwater. After going through the actual assault, Wonder Woman suspects that the ones who attacked Cyborg were warriors, as they avoided his gaze and kept to the shadows. After getting a close look at his mysterious assailant, they were able to figure out that they have gills, which would mean that they come from Atlantis, the mysterious city that was sunk to the bottom of the ocean by the gods. When Wonder Woman inspected the weapon they attacked Cyborg with, she confirmed it to be the same carvings from the Tales of Atlantis that she read as a little girl. According to legends, it was sunk into the ocean, but its people were saved by the magic of the King's Trident, which then turned them irreversibly into creatures of the sea. Batman suggests he and Superman go and question Dr. Shin, the foremost expert on all things Atlantis, while the others focus on finding the hidden city. At Atlantis, Prince Orm goes over his plans with Manta, who claims they have reached the point of no turning back after setting things in motion. Unlike the prince, Manta explains that the Queen has yet to grasp the dangers of the surface world, after being granted an audience with the Queen, who confronts him about how his recent aggression towards the surface world has exposed Atlantis. Orm claims that, if left unchecked, the sub would have discovered them anyway. He explains that while they hide in the shadows of the ocean, the surface dwellers have guardians with powers that walk amongst them, called the Justice League, the Queen has made herself clear, and as long as she sits on the throne, she will preserve the peace at all costs. After dismissing Orm and Manta, the Queen confides in Mira that Orm is unsuitable to be king and hopes that Arthur, the one who is of both worlds, would bridge the gap between their two worlds for peaceful coexistence. Although Mira claims that Arthur is unready for the role, the Queen demands that he be brought before her. Dr. Shin later thanks Manta for helping him find Arthur, who he claims is definitive proof of his research into Atlantis. Manta then orders his men to deal with Dr. Shin and Arthur while he drives a man sub and attacks the unsuspecting Atlanteans with missiles under the guise of surface dwellers, to force the Queen's hand to raise arms and wage war on the surface. After rallying the survivors about what happened, Orm voices his indifferences against the surface dwellers and convinces others to join his cause. The Queen thinks otherwise and speaks her mind. She believes that war would only cause senseless ruin on both sides, but given the recent incident, she believes it is high time for both worlds to come together. She then orders Manta to arrange a meeting with the Justice League to broker a peace treaty for both worlds. The next day, Arthur wakes up with a major hangover. When Dr. Shin shows up on his doorstep, claiming to have information about his father, he explains that his father contacted him in search of answers. When he finally opens the door on him, he finds him stabbed, and armored Atlanteans emerge from the waters. He tries to fight back and hold on for as long as he can, but he eventually passes out when they blow up the lighthouse. Not before Mira arrives at his rescue. When the leader asks Mira to surrender him, she refuses and slaughters them in the blink of an eye with her magic. Batman and Superman arrive at Dr. Shin's place, but find it ransacked. Batman suspects the doctor's dead, given that they went through all the trouble of destroying his life's work. While going through the doctor's things, Superman finds Arthur's picture torn and thrown into the aquarium, given that Arthur also has gills. And after reading through the letter his father sent to the doctor, they suspect that Arthur is half Atlantean. Realizing he's the key to their investigation, Batman sends Green Lantern and the Flash to look for Arthur Curry. When Arthur comes around, he later meets Mira, who explains that she was sent by his mother, Queen Atlana, to bring him back to Atlantis. Arthur was initially resentful towards his mother, who left him, and his father when he was still a baby. Mira explains that when the Queen was young, she met and fell in love with his father, and that their union resulted in his birth. She later returned to Atlantis after realizing her duty as she was royalty and promised to their king. She left them heartbroken as she could neither wed his father nor raise him as a halfling child. She now comes to him hoping that he is their hope to forestall war and bridge the two worlds. He's later overwhelmed after learning about his mother and birthright that he decides to return to the surface to grab some air when they are suddenly under attack by a horde of trenchers, predatory creatures that scavenge the ocean's floor before Atlantis sinks. Although Mira tried to fend them off, they were quickly outnumbered when the Justice League arrived to help them. After a failed assassination attempt, Orm confronts Manta about his plan to get the trenchers to kill Arthur and worries that their plan is falling apart. The Queen walks in and Manta assures her that the Justice League are on their way to Atlantis. Orm voices his objections to seeking peace with the surface dwellers, claiming that it wasn't what the previous king would have wanted. When Orm confronts her about Arthur, an illegitimate heir to the throne, Queen Atlana does not deny it, but instead confronts him about his betrayal when he spilled Atlantean blood and blamed it on the surface world to incite war. She walks away, but not before telling him that he will pay for his betrayal. Manta tried to stop her from escaping after revealing that she knew of their plans, but when the Queen used the trident on Manta, Orm sneaked up from behind her and stabbed her with a knife. With the Queen dead, he claims the trident and prepares his army to wage war. The Justice League escorts Arthur and Mira to Atlantis to meet the Queen. Superman, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, and Cyborg accompanied them to the throne room, where they found the Queen dead, suspended in a glass chamber. Arthur charged at Orm in a rage after admitting that he killed the Queen himself. Orm used the trident to defend himself, which not even Superman stands a chance against. When knocked unconscious, Orm used the trident to trap them in a cocoon-like container and orders his men to throw them into the dark trenches. Arthur wakes before the others and breaks free from the cocoon when he suddenly finds an abominable sea creature ready to feast on them. Realizing that he cannot defeat it by himself, he breaks free Superman from the cocoon. He then uses his powers to summon a whale and bring the rest to safety while Superman handles the sea creature. Cyborg contacted the others on the ship and was informed that a massive tidal wave was about to hit Metropolis, which Orm used to mask his army as they quickly approached its shores. The US Army tried to fight back but stood no chance against the Atlanteans or their weapons. Flash and Shazam tried to fight as many as possible, but they vastly outnumbered them. The rest of the Justice League arrives and they fight the Atlantean army. While Arthur was fighting, Manta snuck up and attacked him from behind. He claims that he orchestrated everything and admits to manipulating Orm to attack the surface after using his mommy issues and sense of entitlement against him. While Manta keeps ranting about how he planned everything, Arthur uses that time to call a shark that swallows Manta. Seeing Orm leading the charge himself, Mira and the Justice League tried to fight him and recover the trident, but they didn't stand a chance against its powers. Mira and Shazam were taken down quickly while Cyborg was skewered and down for the count. Wonder Woman managed to take the trident, but seeing she was of no royal blood, Orm took it back from her. Flash saved Wonder Woman but was also taken down along with Green Lantern, who was sent flying toward a building. Superman even tried to face Orm, but he too was taken down. Since Arthur is of royal blood, only he stands a chance against Orm and the trident. Meanwhile, Batman seeks out Green Lantern hoping to have information he could use against Orm. When he learned that Orm admitted to murdering the Queen, he sought Cyborg, who was unconscious due to lack of energy. Batman tried to power him up with his taser, which was enough power to let Cyborg project the scene to the Atlanteans, when Orm admitted to killing the Queen. After hearing Mira's testimony, who witnessed it, the Atlanteans threw down their arms. Arthur sucker punches Orm when he is distracted and claims the trident, who tells his people of his birthright. He declares to be their light to guide Atlantis to a better future that promises them peace with the surface. Later, Cyborg is getting fixed up at Star Labs when he gives in to his feelings and asks Dr. Sarah Sims to dinner, much to Shazam's approval. The Justice League were then invited back to Atlantis for Arthur's crowning, where he was bequeathed the Trident of Neptune, making him their new king. Batman suggests working on the team if they are to face graver threats in the future. Cyborg claims he's been working on plans for a watchtower when Superman suggests inviting Arthur. Wonder Woman worries that he might have too much on his plate given the pressures of being king, but Arthur claims that he will make it work, given that he needs to have a foothold on both worlds if he wants to bridge the gap between their people. Mira later informs him that trenchers were spotted at the city's edge. Arthur and Mira swim out to confront them, but not before Arthur uses his powers to summon all sea creatures to his side. The end. Thank you so much for watching. Please check out these other videos and make sure to subscribe and tap that bell icon to be notified about our latest content. We'll see you next time.